Thunderbolts. Is this movie the change that the MCU needed to be great again? If you're interested in what I have to say about it, stick around. Let's talk about it. Let's find out. Unpack this thing. Roll the intro.
You're now watching The Captain.
All right, y'all. So just got back from watching the Thunderbolts, and I wanted to discuss why I think this movie is definitely a step in the right direction for the MCU. This movie is almost in a couple ways to me kind of a return to form, if that makes any sense. Something a lot of people already understand, I already know, I've talked about for a while now. The Marvel Universe is really in this big formulaic sense of the word where movies were kind of predictable. A lot of the shows were kind of often weird put together ways because the writers had to have multiple versions of a script together and people wouldn't know what characters were allowed to be in a show beforehand. Things were going weird. And I think with Daredevil Born Again ending and that being kind of lukewarm, that really put a really bad taste in my mouth in regards to a lot of Marvel stuff. So I was kind of planning on checking out like a lot of people, but I wanted to see what the Thunderbolts had to offer because it had a lot of the characters that I was really fond of in the MCU up until this point. Florence Pugh, Yelena, is probably my favorite character in Marvel right now at this point. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love her comedy. She is definitely fine, of course, but I love her character, and I think this movie did a lot of dope stuff with her character and kind of developing her and really rounding her out a lot. Bucky, Sebastian Stan, Winter Soldier is also amazing in this. David Harbour as the Red Guardian was amazing in this. And they brought back two characters that I didn't think would see the light of day for a while. They brought back John Walker and Ghost. Ghost especially, I thought was never coming to see the light of day again in Marvel, but they made this thing pretty dope. But first and foremost, I have to talk about a character that I've been waiting for a very long time to make his appearance in the MCU. I thought this was going to be a pipe dream that maybe only came years on the line. Maybe we saw this person in an animated series at some point or animated movie. I never thought I would get to see him on the silver screen in all his glory. And that is a Sentry, Robert Reynolds. To put this into perspective, for people that aren't aware of who this character is, maybe you've never seen him before now, in the comics, Sentry is probably one of like the 5 strongest people to ever be in a Marvel comic, if we're being honest. And that's excluding a lot of the cosmic beings, obviously like Null or any of the Celestials and things like that, you know, the Living Tribunal, et cetera, et cetera. Robert Reynolds, a Sentry, just a couple feats he has here. He has ripped gods in half. If you look at Ares, he has destroyed New Asgard in its entirety. He has literally beaten all the Avengers to a pulp with little to no effort. And again, we'll get into the details of this because it's not exactly the Sentry, but something of the sort. And then my favorite instance that we've seen him in the Planet Hulk or World War Hulk storyline, where the Hulk comes back and is just soloing all of the Marvel Universe, taking over the planet and making heroes fighting gladiatorial arenas. Sentry was asked to come out of his proverbial retirement and he fought the Hulk to a standstill. And in this fight, continental shelves were cracked. He pushed the Hulk to his limits, and it was just an amazing fight where they both got to cut loose. So seeing this character make an appearance, it gave me hope for hopefully them to redeem the Hulk down the line with World War Hulk, Planet Hulk storyline potentially, but that's thinking too far ahead. In this film in particular, the things you should know about the Sentry more than anything else is that the Sentry is not the only character that was introduced with the Sentry being introduced. The Sentry being a part of the MCU means the Void is a part of the MCU now, and they showcased him in a really interesting way. I was really interested to see how they would showcase the Void, because for people that aren't aware who the Void is, you probably just saw Sentry, so you definitely don't know who the Void is. The Void is the Jekyll to the Sentry's Mr. Hyde, essentially. He is the evil, negative personification of all the bad things that Robert Reynolds has. But let me stop there and back up into how Robert Reynolds got his powers to begin with. For people that aren't aware, Robert Reynolds is essentially another effort to create a new Captain America. He was a part of the super soldier serum being experimented on and created in a different way. And Robert was essentially a drug addict who broke into the lab where that super soldier serum was being kept, injected himself with it, and then got the powers of a proverbial god for the most part. And he went around saving people and whatnot, and being, at this point in the comic run that he was showcased in, like Marvel's first big hero. It was like him, the Fantastic Four, a lot of the OG people that were around, and he was the guy. He was the pinnacle of what a hero should have been, up until the Void manifested. So getting back into the Void stuff, the Void is the personification of everything bad in regards to what the Sentry is. If the Sentry is the shining golden guardian, the Void is the shadow that guardian cast. And he essentially is not to be trifled with, because all he wants to do is consume and murder everything. And he really can't be stopped. Like literally the only person to ever stop him is going above like God level into the celestial power gap where you have Null the symbiote god. And Null is like where that gap stopped, because everything under Null, Sentry is washing. He is beating Avengers, he's beating Asgardians, he's beating Eternals, he's beating anything with a pulse that is not a celestial being. And he's doing it rather easily, at least the Void is. And this is where I was really interested to see how they're gonna do this. So to kind of get into the actual plot synopsis here, we see that Valentina is essentially on trial for doing a bunch of foul shit behind the scenes as a CIA leader, and has done a lot of shady shit in the past, and the government is tired of it, and they're looking to impeach her and put her in federal prison. She then decides to clean house, like any evil doing, anything that she had going on beforehand, she's trying to get wiped out. And in doing so, she has a bunch of shadow agents that are out in the field, that being the likes of Ghost, Taskmaster, John Walker, and of course Yelena. So in order to get them off the field, she has them all tie up a lot of loose ends that she has around, and then ask them to go to this one site for one last mission to give them the big payoff so they can go about doing their own thing. And that essentially was them having pretty much like a Mexican standoff, where she sent each people that were within her shadow group, or like shadow agents, to kill one another in this location so that she could trap them all there, burn them all there with all the rest of the evidence that she had, which would incriminate her essentially. And in this scenario, it was Yelena, John Walker, Ghost, and Taskmaster, which unfortunately did not make it into this movie. For people that, you know, were hopefully not looking for a spoiler alert, but at this point, if you're clicking on this video not ready for spoilers, I'm sorry, I don't feel bad for you. But yes, Taskmaster died not very quickly, but very early on in this movie. She took a bullet to the face and then her body was incinerated. So if she comes back to any variation, I'd be surprised. I feel like they killed her off in order to bring in the more traditional Taskmaster into the field. I can't remember the name of the character, but he's a man for the most part. So they probably got rid of her so they could bring in the Taskmaster that most people are used to seeing. All that aside, in this facility that they were trapped into, they found this guy named Bob, and Bob was someone who woke up there not knowing what was going on. All that Bob knew was that he signed up to be a tester for this new drug that would give him extraordinary power, that would give him the ability to do great things and change his life for the better. Obviously, we come to find out later on that this Bob is the Sentry, Robert Reynolds. And essentially, this was part of the Sentry program that Valentina put together. In this universe, instead of this being like a government task thing, it was her in particular that created the Sentry drug and created the Sentry. And because he's the last remaining piece of that program, he is who she decides to be the shining poster boy for the program, and being the world's new hero, being the Sentry. So she gives him the costume, she has him dye his hair, do all this cool stuff, and eventually we see the Void manifest, the Void being all the negative thoughts. And this is where I kind of want to take a second here to discuss the parts of the movie that I think make this a good movie. I've kind of given you guys the comic lore and some of the synopsis, but the parts of this movie that make this thing great to me are more than anything else the character writing in this. It has been a very long time, maybe like Guardians 3, where I've seen a film showcase character development and really build relationships with one another. Yelena in this was amazing because we got to see the we get to see the progression of her character from the Hawkeye show into this, where she's dealing with a lot of loneliness and, you know, damn near slight alcoholism, or she's just really lonely and has nothing, and she's just kind of looking at all the bad things she's done in her life. And her and most of the other Thunderbolts teammates in this film are doing similar things, but they're just kind of reflecting on the bad things that they've done in life. And for the most part, we got to see a lot of development from I don't say all the cast, we got to see development from, more specifically, from John Walker and Yelena, because I think those were the two characters who really didn't get a lot of time to grow from the issues they had that played their characters early on. Ghost maybe is the one outlier there where we didn't get to see anything with her beforehand, really outside of her Ant-Man movie. But we've already seen Winter Soldier go through his arcs. We've seen the Red Guardian go through some stuff. So it was dope to see Yelena and John kind of not really tie a bow on their arc, but really get really deep into their arc. And not just them, but we also use their arcs and how they developed to assist the development introduction of Bob. And Bob is a dope character. Bob essentially is a meth addict who went through this whole spur of dealing with his childhood trauma of domestic violence and really used that as a lot of self-deprecation. He's really, really self-deprecative. And his thought process and just ability to be prone to self-deprecation kind of formed into this actual alter ego named the Void that was created through the drug. This version of the Void, though, he is still probably the strongest person that we've seen in the MCU thus far. Probably isn't a word for it. He is the strongest person I think I've seen thus far in the MCU. But the way they went about doing this is very similar to how they worked it out in the comics, to where obviously you can't beat the Void physically unless you have Null, which, we know Null's a thing now after watching the Venom movie. But for the most part, you have to kind of talk him out of it and really have him go through moments of realization and give him assurance so that he can kind of look into better parts of himself and then keep the Void locked away. The essence of doing that, they do a similar thing at the end of this film where they do it similarly to the comic books, where in order for him to not manifest the Void, he just can't use his Sentry powers at all. Because once he does, he kind of goes into this state to where he goes into a lot of the self-deprecative stuff, which is pretty realistic to most people with mental health issues. You're never really truly gone of them once you address them. It's just a matter of managing them the rest of your life. And he is prone to episodes to where he'll have his great days where he feels invincible in his own words, and the other days where he feels really, really bad. And those are the days where the Void manifests. So when he uses his powers, it's inevitable that at some point the Void will manifest. So I'm so excited to see what this leaves in store for future characters, because we already know that at some point they're going to use the Sentry/Void as a beat stick or as a measuring stick for how strong things are going to be or how bad things are going to get with Avengers Doomsday in particular, because it's going to be an interdimensional Avengers level threat that's going to require a character like the Sentry to come out of retirement at some point and help out, and he's probably going to go down in a very spectacular way, showing how strong another character will be. More than likely it's going to be Doom. That being said, the biggest thing to discuss at the end of this film that happened was the realization of what the actual film's name is, because we know there's an asterisk next to the Thunderbolts in all the promos, so we know that was subject to change. We know now that this team is not the Thunderbolts but the New Avengers, and this is where I really, really, really wanted to take a second and look at more of the comic stuff, because we saw how they were really comic accurate in regards to addressing the Sentry and the Void and how they work and how they were showcased. But for people that do not know, I think there's a run, I think it is Dark Reign, I could be wrong, but it revolved around Norman Osborn becoming the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and him essentially creating a new Avengers team of villains was like Bullseye was a part of that. I think Dakin was a part of that as well. And the big powerhouse he had a part of that team was the Sentry, where he tried to manipulate the Sentry and have him go about doing some really dastardly deeds in regards to attacking Atlantis and doing all kinds of other evil stuff. And eventually that led to the Void appearing and the Void pretty much wiping out damn near everything. So us getting a new Avengers team with Bob being around in the cut is pretty interesting. And we know now that also this new Avengers team isn't going to be the only Avengers team, because we're getting some of the fallout from the Captain America Brave New World movie, where we know that we know that Sam Wilson is developing his own Avengers team. So I'm really interested to see what these Avenger team lineups look like, because it feels like going into Doomsday, we're going to have a two-prong attack of a big Avengers team essentially, but it's going to be two Avengers team. The Thunderbolts team that we have assembled now, which is consisting of Yelena, the Black Widow, the Red Guardian, the Winter Soldier, Ghost, John Walker, and Bob Bennett Tuck. And then we're going to have Captain America and his team of people, which will probably be, if I'm looking at what was announced in regards to characters for the Doomsday movie, we'll probably see Shang-Chi in there. We'll probably see I'm blanking on fucking names right now that are characters that are around. Captain Marvel, maybe. Well, I'm excited to see what it looks like, but there's going to be a new team. There's going to be two Avengers teams essentially. They're going to be in action, and I'm really excited to see what this looks like and how they do this. Black Panther, of course, will probably be on the Captain America team as well. But this all being said, this movie was really just a connector piece, or at least a shedding into the transition of the new era for real. Captain America Brave New World was kind of supposed to be that, I guess, to an extent, but this movie definitely feels like a return to form, where you have dope character writing, you have the unveiling of a great new character and a great new plot device in the Robert Reynolds, because that's what he's going to be. If we're keeping it a buck, he's going to be a plot device going forward. And we have at the end credit scene the arrival of the Fantastic Four in this world, so we're going to get to see what happens in the Fantastic Four movie soon, and this movie assumingly takes place after the events of the Fantastic Four movie. But it's gonna be dope though, y'all. I think the best way to talk about this movie, and I've had to give it a comparison for people that maybe don't have an idea of what I mean here, how I see this movie, is kind of a combination of the 2013 Avengers movie combined with like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie in regards to the grandioseness of a team being in New York saving people. Like there are literally shots that mirror a lot of the stuff that they were doing in the Avengers movie, the OG one, where you see the people on the Thunderbolts team or the new Avengers team saving people in broad daylight and then getting that big press conference showing being really frontward facing in regards to that. Like they end up on a Wheaties box, for Christ's sake. They are the public facing new Avengers team. Not saying that this movie is as good as those movies. I think obviously the first Avengers movie and the first Guardians movie have a lot of generational impact on regards to the MCU and movies in general. But I think that's the kind of vibe that this director was maybe going for. That's what it felt like. You have the grandioseness and the public saving from like an Avengers movie, but then this team definitely actually bonded a lot. And like the quippiness was there. It felt like they were really similar, so they bonded over a lot of their similar traumas and similar issues. And you got to know them through like subtle things and scenes. Like there was a whole thing with John Walker where he discussed he was doing this for his family, and then you later find out subtly through Bucky that his wife took his child and left him, so he's alone. And instead of going down this quippy dialogue of showcasing that or like characters picking at it, you see Yelena like look at him and acknowledge that, and then maybe they have like a thing where she pokes at it as like a really like pressing the thing that hurts later on when she's talking shit to him. It's done really well. I know I'm probably not explaining it the best. I haven't really had time to like sit with the movie as much because I just saw it, but I wanted to get my thoughts out to everybody because I know I'm kind of a couple of days late with the movie coming out anyway. But all in all, this was a solid movie to me. I'd probably give this movie like 8 Thunderbolts out of 10. It was a really good movie. I think I would definitely watch this again. I really enjoyed seeing a character in the Century make an appearance, and I can't wait to see what they do with him going forward. And I can't wait to see what this new Avengers team looks like. I think at this point in the MCU, with the old guard kind of being gone and having so many different heroes being introduced, I'm just excited to see how all these characters interact with one another throughout these next big Avengers movies, because we're going to see all these characters that we've never seen come on screen before that know about one another maybe, or maybe don't know about one another at all, come together and have to save the universe more than likely against Doom. That being said, y'all let me know what y'all think about the Thunderbolts in the comment section below. Is this a movie that you were looking forward to? Is this a movie that you think is moving in the right direction of what the new MCU should be? Or do you guys think it's just going to be a flop and they're going to fall in the greatness that is going to rise with the DC universe that is going to be coming along with James Gunn leading that helm? Y'all let me know in the comment section below. But again, this has been Captain Diesel of Captain Diesel's Dojo. This has been my thoughts on the Thunderbolts 2025, and I will see you guys next time. Be good people. Peace.